Today's reading is about an individual who is feeling trapped in their life right now. They're feeling trapped in their circumstances, but what they can't understand is that they created these circumstances for themselves. We have the influence of the High Priestess card here, and Mary Magdalena or Magdalene is depicting this card. And as you notice, there are 7 skulls at the foot of her book. And there are 7 skulls there because the story goes, or the story is depicted that Jesus cast out 7 demons from Mary Magdalene, and she became a reformed individual. She was a very spiritual individual. She was a very powerful and influential and insightful woman in her later years. She had changed a lot of her ways. She financially supported Jesus and his apostles, and some people refer to Mary Magdalene as the 13th apostle, although the church does not accept that in its entirety. They just see her as somebody who functioned like the apostles, but she was not an apostle. Regardless, this woman had witnessed Jesus' crucifixion according to biblical text, and she was the first person to see Jesus when he had arisen from the dead, and she spread the word of Jesus arising from the dead, and then traveled throughout the world spreading the message of the divine. She was a woman who carried a very important message and connection to the divine. But sometimes when she appears, she is symbolizing that the way forward is through faith and not necessarily knowing exactly what's going to happen. And then you have the 8 of Feathers here, and you have Jonah, and he's in the fish. And this is the story where Jonah gets scooped up by the fish, and he's in this fish for 3 days and 3 nights. And 3 is a very important number to think about for this reading. It has a lot to do with collaborating with others, expansion, but I'm not going to get into detail because this is a long reading. This story about Jonah in the fish, this story about the fish, he has a task given to him by God and he pussies out. Excuse my language. He jumps on a ship and he tries to run away from God in his task. God casts a storm upon the boat. They figure out that it's because of Jonah. They toss Jonah into the water. Jonah's plummeting to his death, entangled by weeds, and God swiftly sends a fish. The fish gobbles him up, and he sits in this fish having no idea where he's going, no direction as to if he's going to survive or not. And he starts praying, and then finally he gets the revelation that he's supposed to remain on task. He gets the time, the pause in his life to reflect, but he's trapped until he can figure out what he's supposed to do, and he gets back on track. But he has to do it before both him and the fish get eaten by a leviathan. So the major premise of this reading is that if this applies to you in the collective, and not all readings apply to every member of the collective, but if this applies to you, you are supposed to be in tune with your intuition in order to figure out the way forward, and you're not supposed to know all the details of the way forward, and you're battling a difficult task. But based on this high priestess situation, you have insight into the darker aspects of the world, of humanity, and as a result you have insight into how people function and what they think, and that is protection in itself. Being trapped in the fish while you're deciding what you should do next is protection in itself. Excuse the beeping. Now, some of you out there might be a female, a divine female, and you've started on this journey with the best of intentions. And somewhere along the line, things get messed up, or you've got someone in your life who really cares about you and they want you to move forward. This is a loving, devout, faithful woman, and they want to see you move forward. And currently, you have been through a phase in your life where you have experienced a lot of wealth and prosperity. You've sought out wisdom. You have information about the divine. You have knowledge and intelligence. This is the Queen of Sheba. And the Queen of Sheba is a little bit of a controversial figure. Either there are claims that she was an Ethiopian queen, and then there are also claims that in the Quran that she was an Arabic queen. Now you have to understand that Ethiopia is located in the Horn of Africa. And the Horn of Africa that it consists of many countries, but part of the Horn of Africa is along the Red Sea, the southern part of the Red Sea. And then right across the canal there, you've got the southern tip of Arabia, where Yemen is. And Ethiopia had control over Yemen. This was a very vast area with a lot of resources. And this woman, the Queen of Sheba, regardless if she came from Ethiopia, with all due respect, or from Yemen, she could have represented many queens going to visit Solomon, but either way, she is a representative of this area. It would have taken months to travel to King Solomon. And she gets there. This is a dedicated individual. This is an individual with wealth and prosperity. This is an individual who is intelligent enough to make business deals, to open up business partnerships, and it's even claimed that she had a child with King Solomon, if it's consistent with Ethiopian documentation of who she is. So if you are this person that this reading applies to, you are not stupid. You're very smart, you're cultured, you're wealthy, and you're very intelligent. And you have someone out there who supports you. So for all I know, you are a mother and your child is kind of lost in the world and trying to, is in a battle with themselves. I'm not sure. Or you are the person that is going through a bit of a spiritual battle. So we have the Five of Chalices here, and it's about the prodigal son. And Jesus is documented in Luke as telling a story to two groups of people, a religious group and another group, which are sinners and accountants. And one group represents the older son in this story, and then the other group represents the younger son. The younger son is associated with the sinners and the accountants. I know it's funny, but I'm telling you this story because it's important. Usually the Five of Chalices or Five of Cups has to do with a huge loss, but there's always two cups still standing upwards, meaning that there is something to salvage. And as you can see, this prodigal son or prodigal son is living in desolate squalor. There's nothing there. He has nothing. But originally, he approached his father, and his father was extremely wealthy, and he said, you know what, I don't want to wait for my inheritance until you pass on. Just give me my inheritance now, I'm taking off. And the father was so loving. He let this son take off with all of his money, and he squandered it. He traveled the world, and he ended up living with pigs and wanting to eat pig food. So he finally humbles himself and goes all the way back to his father. He doesn't want any money. He doesn't want anything. He just wants a job. And because he comes back with a changed attitude, the father welcomes him into his home. He was lost, and then he is now found. But the older son, the one who did everything the right way, is angry, and he doesn't want to participate in festivities. And the father doesn't understand. But the reality of it is that the son who did everything the right way, lived the right way, did it so that he could get his inheritance. He was lost at home, meaning he needed to be found. He needed to find his way. He needed to have good intentions. So whoever this reading applies to, they have wealth and prosperity and they seek wisdom, but for some reason they lose their way. They lose their way because they lack the morality and the ethics, the good intentions to move themselves forward, but they have time to learn. And that's what they do in the Seven of Chalices. This story is about the temptation of Christ. Christ gets challenged. And the devil challenges Christ during his 40 days in the desert. I'm going to try to make this really quick. Christ is challenged. His senses, his desires. Will he put his need for desires and physical desires of the flesh ahead of his true purpose? He says no. Then he's told to test God. He says no. Then devil says, okay, I give up. I'll give you everything you want in this life. Just follow me. Don't follow God. And he says no. So Jesus follows a righteous path. He puts all of the wealth and prosperity of the world behind him in order to pursue a righteous path. So this person who's got money is being told that they have to change their attitude or they won't prosper. And guess what? They do change their attitude and they get a new lease on life, but they're betrayed. They're betrayed by someone very close to them. And they are being taught through this betrayal that they must find it within their heart and within their emotions to lead through love, lead through love so that they can find their way. And throughout this journey, they will find somebody who shows them love and affection. They will find people that will guide them down the right path. They just have to change their mindset and have faith.